Perhaps the biggest headline is you're offering a new delivery system for Windows, the ability to download your PC basically to any device from the cloud. Who's the target user here?
First of all, thank you so much, Emily, for having me. As you said, in the intro, it's a very exciting week for us. Our partner conference is something that I've grown up with all through my life at Microsoft. And it's a great reminder of, I think, what's unique and core to Microsoft. These 400,000 partners who are going to create 10 million plus jobs over the next 4 years. And for every dollar Microsoft makes, there's $10 that's made in the partner ecosystem. So it's a super important week. And as you said, in hybrid work, the real currency or the real need is more flexibility. That means more options for how to get to your software, your applications, your content, your files. And so we're very excited about this new category that we announced, which is the Cloud PC and Windows 365. So I think if, for example, we're all getting ready to welcome interns and a way for them to have a PC that now is available in the cloud. So that means it's easy to provision, easy to secure. If you even think about in the pandemic or the height of it, some of the software engineers, industrial engineers had real issues on productivity because they wanted access to the most sophisticated compute capabilities. And now they can have that in the cloud, and they can be working on their home computer or a corporation-issued computer, but they'll have access to all of the content they need. So we're very excited about the Cloud PC.
Now, I know you're focused, and you spoke about this at Inspire this morning, on giving your partners the most powerful technology and tools. You're also giving Teams customers more features, access to Dynamics 365. How does this all together fit into your vision of how we will be working differently a decade from now?
Yeah, I mean, one of the very exciting other announcements from this morning is if anything, the silos that exist, Emily, today between, I'll say, communications, collaboration, and business process have to come down. So the friction all has to be broken. And so that's what this new class of applications called collaboration applications that, in fact, many of them got built during the pandemic. People were building essentially the connections between Dynamics 365 or Power Apps, and Teams. And so what we did this morning was to announce that we're going to make that friction-free even from a licensing perspective. So I think it's going to really speak to the overall need of flexibility. When we did our own surveys with our employees, Emily, right now, we have 70-odd% people who say we want that human connection, and 70% who say we want flexibility. And that's the hybrid paradox. And so that means it requires structural change in how we think about people, process, as well as the place where hybrid work happens. And so we're well on our, we're working across all of those dimensions.
You're also cutting merchant fees from 20% to 3%, which is a pretty big change. How does that position Microsoft competitively?
I mean, we're very, very anchored as a platform company. Our job number 1, 2, and 3 is to create more opportunity for our partners of all forms. And so that means providing the best economics of any platform company out there. And that means when it comes to the marketplace, so the announcement that you referenced, whether it's the Azure Marketplace or AppSource, where a lot of the SaaS applications are there, we cut from what is in the industry standard 20% to 3%, where that means our partners can now take that surplus and invest in their own people, in their own IP, and create more opportunity for themselves. To me, that's the sort of core to being a great platform company, and we're very, very focused on that.
Now, the biggest debate happening in the business world right now is how to get workers back to work and what benefits to give your employees. Microsoft is asking employees to be back in the office 51% of the time, but you're flexible about the rest of the time. Is that a permanent policy? And for those companies that are saying you have to be back in the office 100% of the time, are they on the wrong side of history?
First of all, I think we at Microsoft, we want to be much more data-driven. I also think that in time, if a year from now, we will have more sense of what the real structural change and needs and the expectations of both our employees and our customers are. And we'll really think about long-term policies based on, quite frankly, having all of that data behind us, because otherwise I think we are trying to come up and being too overly dogmatic when I think we need to be more experimental in our approach to return to work, because I do fundamentally believe the world's changed. People expect, our employees expect more flexibility. As I said, 70% want more touch with others, but at the same time want flexibility. So that's why we need to, for example, on our tools, Emily, we are really making sure that we are going to be great at asynchronous, synchronous, remote, and together communication. In the past, we could have probably gotten away with being good in one or two of those quadrants, but you now need to be world-class at all the four quadrants. So when it comes to people, the policies around them, how we think about productivity broadly, how do we physically outfit even our conference rooms so that, for example, remote participants are not going to put up with anything other than a first-class experience. And so we are making sure that that's the features in Teams, cameras in conference rooms really allow us to do that. And then, this idea that, we talk about remote work or remote sales or remote service. Guess what? Going forward in a world of flexibility and hybrid, it's just going to be sales, support, and service. And we just need to just make the structural change to our operating model so that we accommodate for what I think are changed expectations and changed world.
All right. Now, the cloud obviously makes so many parts of business more seamless, but there are also concerns about so many key industries moving key data to the cloud, consolidated among such few companies. The Bank of England recently called out this problem, called out some of these companies for quote unquote secrecy, for the concentration of too much power in the hands of too few. How concerned should we be about cloud security and the concentration of that power among the cloud giants like yourself?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of different dimensions to that. One is the security dimension. Ultimately, I think one of the most important things coming out of this pandemic, which needs to be a huge priority for all of us, is implementing zero trust architecture, whether it's at the infrastructure layer, the data layer, the application layer, or the identity layer. So there cannot be a more important thing, because as I always say, this is not even about sort of having the security technology. It's the operational security posture to recognize threats, see the threat before it becomes pervasive inside of your organization. So we're investing a lot, building a lot of technology, evangelizing, making sure our services are there to help the smallest of businesses to the largest of enterprises. So that's one dimension you reference. The other one, when it comes to quote-unquote concentration risk, I would say more than concentration risk, the biggest issue is sovereignty. The question every business needs to be asking is, first of all, whatever data I have, first of all, do I have control over my own data? Or is somebody leaking the value of my data to benefit themselves? That's, I think, more the bigger issue versus where is it residing? Is it in one cloud, the other cloud, or with me? I think it's more, do you have data sovereignty? We know it applies to nations, it applies to companies, and I think that's the bigger issue. And I think that, in fact, this morning, even at our keynote, I spoke about that.
Now, the scrutiny of big tech, meantime, is accelerating around the world. It's accelerating on Capitol Hill. And so far, Microsoft seems to have avoided most of the ire of U.S. lawmakers. You haven't had to testify on the Hill yet. Some of your opponents have told me they think that's because Microsoft is really good at lobbying. What's your response to that?
The fundamental thing that I think is being litigated out there is what are two sides to it. What technologies, as they scale, what are the unintended consequences for the broader society, whether it's privacy, whether it's ethics, whether it's cyber, what have you. So that's sort of one side, which the Congress and other legislative bodies and antitrust bodies are all looking at. And then the second one is competition. Where is there vigorous competition or lack thereof, or where are the policies of any platform provider or gatekeepers or aggregators prohibiting more competition? And quite frankly, on both those fronts, Microsoft is on the right side of history. We would every day get up and make sure that when we scale our platforms We're making sure that things like privacy and things like security or AI ethics or internet safety are things that we invest in. And then when it comes to competition, I mean, you should go talk to the people who are investing a lot of capital, a lot of M&A, competing with Microsoft, and we welcome that. And as long as we both of those fronts we remain vibrant, we will continue to make progress while at the same time benefiting those who partner with us.
We are speaking to your competitors as well, I assure you. On that note, the pact you struck with Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai back in 2015 recently expired. This pact to not lobby against each other. And the relationship, as we understand it, has been tense in recent days on a number of fronts. Are you concerned about returning to the acrimony of earlier years between Google and Microsoft? Have you talked it out with Sundar recently, or would you be open to that?
First of all, look, I mean, I have a lot of respect for what Alphabet and Google and Sundar and team have achieved and are doing. I mean, to us, we compete with them on many dimensions, right? Whether it's advertising, we're fighting the good fight to sort of compete against the colossal lead in that space, and we compete in the enterprise space every day. So therefore, we will promise you one thing, which is we'll compete vigorously and we'll cooperate with them. And if the question is, are we going to go do stuff which is not above board? No. We are going to absolutely be anything that we sort of have, which is an issue with Alphabet or Google, will be in the public domain with them and with others. And it's all about competing in the right way and cooperating in things that we both care about.
All right. Microsoft just hit a $2 trillion market cap. It is the second most valuable company in the world, next to Apple, $2.12 trillion to be exact, according to my Bloomberg terminal. How do you justify that, and where does the next $1 trillion of growth come from?
I mean, whatever success we've achieved and whatever success we achieve going forward, and especially in a week like this where we're sitting down with our partners, comes down, Emily, always back to me as to what market cap, quote unquote, we are creating around us. But one country, one community at a time, right? So that's why I always go back to even the statistics around these 400,000 partners, the 10 million jobs they create, the $10 they make for every dollar we make. And of course, in order to achieve all that, we have to be competitive. We have to be innovating. We have to invest in building a new modern platform across everything from infrastructure to business applications and everything in between. So as long as we do that, I think we're in good shape. We have a very competitive, I mean, think about it, right? Coming out of this pandemic, the most malleable resource out there for us to deal with any of the challenges, whether it's inflation, whether it's the need for more rapid digital transformation, it's all going to be software. And so I feel very well positioned. But at the end of the day, it'll come down to us creating not just the technology, but a business model that allows for broad success around us.
Now, cyber attacks, meantime, seem more frequent than ever. Microsoft has been a victim. Microsoft is responsible for protecting a lot of other companies and your partners. And I wonder, how would you describe the threat level right now? And if there's something keeping you up at night, is cyber it?
For sure. I mean, somebody described this to me, like while we have a pandemic, we have another real pandemic, which is cyber. And that's going to be there with us. But at the same time, I think what is really now much more, I think, in the consciousness of people is the level of attacks for sure have increased, but the need for our response to be top-notch has also increased. And so, for example, if you think about it, right, even the hygiene levels, the operational security hygiene levels, we just have to get better as an industry because we're only as good as the weakest link. If you think about supply chain attacks, that's sort of what they point to. It's not even about the largest of companies with sophisticated tools and manpower to do stuff, but it's about like, okay, what does the supply chain look like? And how do we make sure every small business which is part of our network is also secure? So I do think that this is an issue that's going to remain with us, but I feel fairly confident, quite honestly, right now that we all can come together, share threat intelligence, improve the security posture, and make a real dent on whether it's ransomware on one side or even nation-state activity on the other side.